Chris Mackowski of Emerging Civil War. I'm at the Strasburg Visitor Center atop Hupp's Hill, near the Hupp's Hill Museum. This was the area where Stonewall Jackson made his headquarters on June 1st, 1862, after pulling off one of his most amazing feats of the entire Valley campaign, probably my favorite little episode of the whole campaign. After he had captured Winchester on May 25th, he's actually going to advance his men on May 28th toward Charlestown in pursuit of Banks. Not necessarily trying to capture him, but just to kind of put the scare on the Federals to make it look as though he is threatening not only Harper's Ferry, but the entire line along the Potomac River. When he gets to Charlestown, he's actually going to send the Stonewall Brigade under Charles Winder forward toward Harper's Ferry, and they're going to threaten the garrison there, but not really be able to successfully get it because it's pretty well defended at that point. The 2nd Virginia is going to try to peel off and harass a little bit from Loudoun Heights and Virginia, but they're not going to be able to effectively dislodge that garrison. Meanwhile, Banks is going to get some reinforcements there, and so Federal numbers there will actually swell. Jackson doesn't seem all that concerned about it, but on May 30th, he gets word that behind him, John C. Fremont, the Pathfinder, has been ordered to come out of the mountains of Western Virginia and converge on Jackson's position. Originally, Fremont is ordered to actually kind of attack the upper valley, which is south, but he runs into some of the obstructions that Jackson had laid in the wake of the McDowell battle, and so Fremont takes a big detour, and it ends up bringing him kind of toward the valley on the northern part of the valley, which will bring him towards Strasburg. Jackson doesn't know this, but Fremont will get within about 4 miles of the Valley Pike, but he doesn't want to be there in the first place. He's whining and complaining, and he'll actually encamp about 4 miles from the Pike without actually pushing all the way into Strasburg. Meanwhile, Lincoln also sends word to Irvin McDowell, who is in Fredericksburg, and McDowell is supposed to move south and link up with McClellan, but he's kind of been held in place because of this whole Valley campaign. And, Lincoln's been worried that Jackson's going to threaten the Potomac and threaten Washington, D.C. And so McDowell's been held in place this whole time as a result. And Lincoln finally says to McDowell, send James Shields back into the valley and converge on Strasburg, link up with Fremont if you can, cut Jackson off. Jackson's all the way up in Harper's Ferry. You have the opportunity to get some troops behind him. So Shields is going to come forward with a division. He's going to have William Ord coming in as support, a 2nd division. He'll only go as far as Front Royal. Shields is worried that if he goes all the way to Strasburg, there's a chance that Jackson could actually slip around behind him and get into the Luray Valley, which is between the Massanutten Mountain and the Blue Ridge. So if Shields sits there, then he can kind of guard both mountain passes, but as a result, he's not going to be in position to intercept Jackson. So what Jackson does on the 30th of May is he starts to pull out of Charlestown. He gets as far as Winchester. He sends word to the Stonewall Brigade, I need you to pull out too. Come on, hurry up. And then, interestingly, Jackson refuses to give up everything he's captured in Winchester thus far. We know that he gets a lot of supplies, so much so that Nathaniel Banks, his opponent there, is known as Commissary Banks because of all the supplies Jackson gets. Jackson also gets a number of prisoners, and he doesn't want to give any of that up. So as a result, as he marches out of Winchester, his wagon train is going to be 15 miles long. As the front of it gets to Strasburg, the end of it is getting to Winchester. In the meantime, all of his men are worried, we hear these rumors that Federals are going to be blocking the road in Strasburg, and Jackson's worried about it too. So he's trying to bring everybody along, and he calls back to the Stonewall Brigade and gets them to kind of bring up the caboose. Fortunately, because of the sort of slow ineptitude of Fremont and Shields, Jackson is able to get to Strasburg before getting intercepted. It's a choke point. He's got to have it. He's expecting to fight for it. He gets it instead, and then sets up headquarters here at the George Hupp farm. And then he's waiting for the Stonewall Brigade. He refuses to give up for him. And on the morning of June 1st, he sees them finally cresting the rise and getting here in time. They have marched 35 miles, some of that in the pouring rain. They haven't eaten in 2 days to get there. And the 2nd Virginia, because of their placement at Loudoun Heights, they actually marched 42 miles to get here. There are as many men straggling as there are in the ranks, although Jackson later says that, you know, he would rather lose men to straggling than to fighting. So it's one of those things he gives a little grace for, and a man not known for necessarily giving grace in situations, really important. So Winder shows up with the Stonewall Brigade, and this to me is the moment where Jackson finally seals his covenant with his men, because there's been a lot of grumbling about all the marching and all the fighting and the bad weather and the miserable conditions, and as he's been winning and winning, and then finally it's like, old Jack knows what he's about, the men in the Stonewall Brigade proclaim. And so it's really kind of the moment everyone under his command realizes this dude is not some crazy old fool, as Richard Jewell sort of thinks he is, but that he's got something going. He may not be telling anybody what his plans are, but he's got plans and he's pulling them off. And they can kind of see all this. And he's looking out for his men. It's not just that he's driving them and driving them and driving them. He actually is concerned about those men. So from here, he'll actually be able to kind of move down the valley, and we'll see the battles of Cross Keys and Port Republic that'll follow. But Jackson slips the noose of what should have been an opportunity to for the Federals to bag their game, and they don't. And for me, it's really one of the most fascinating facets of Jackson's entire 1862 campaign. On Hupp's Hill, outside of Strasburg, Virginia, I'm Chris Mackowski for Emerging Civil War. We'll see you online and on the battlefield.